Hey guys, Jay here, welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 184. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. How? Could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, holy cow, this week I played more Warhammer than I've ever played in my life. And in preparation for that Warhammer, I did a fair bit of modeling. But first, did you know that our website, EonsOfBattle.com, is the best way to support us doing what we do, and you get terrain on top of that? Well, you do. Each month on our website, members will get a credit that they can use on our new monthly terrain pack or any previous pack we have ever made. For the month of September, we here at EonsOfBattle are proud to announce the Whimsical Cottages, fantasy buildings perfect for a game with a ye olde flair. Move your models around the quaint homes, the roomy houses, or set up shop in the tavern. With this terrain, you can make an entire town complete with pumpkins, giant mushrooms, and trees to really fill out a game board. And we also have merch, like the Nick and J dice. The J dice do roll better, but some people say that there's something to the Nick dice. This past week, I played 8 games of Warhammer 40k competitively, because I was preparing for a new RT, which has just passed. I have been really trying to learn how to play 40k competitively, because it's kind of the only thing I haven't experienced yet. I've been playing 40k forever, but I always very friendly games. Always, bring whatever you got. Maybe we'll fudge some rules, make up some rules, unless Sean is there. Then we're basically playing competitively. But it's always been a pretty good time. Getting into competitive play, though, I have learned a ton. I know exactly how the game is actually played. I know how to score points, how to do secondaries, how to write a very good list, what that list is going to have to be able to do on the battle. I've played against almost every army at this point. And I've learned all of the eccentricities that you have to know going up against other armies. What are the gotcha moments? What's gonna happen? What do I need to do? And in the RT, I went in with so much experience under my belt. So much experience, like just right at my fingertips. I played a game the night before, literally like hours between playing that game and then going into the first round of the tournament. And I came in dead last again. Which is kind of fine, because the person who comes in dead last gets the store dice, like the dice that have the store's logo on them, which is pretty cool, but it was a little disheartening to come in last again. This is my second RT, and on the car ride home, I had some realizations. I had done pretty well in my practice games. I only won one of them, but I was scoring pretty high in the 60s and 70s. And I won one of my games, and that game was against Sean's parking lot guard list, which made me really proud of myself. My Black Templar list I think it has 2 fatal flaws. Number 1, it's a very honest Black Templar list, because it is only Black Templar units, except for a couple. Also, the Land Raider Crusader is not a Black Templar only vehicle. Even though it was back in the day, like the Black Templar invented the Land Raider Crusader. But it is not in the Black Templar Index, it is in the Space Marine Codex. So it is not officially a Black Templar unit, but we all know it's a Black Templar unit. And it was a workhorse at the tournaments. I've actually been able to keep it alive because usually I don't have it come out of my deployment zone that much. Usually I'll have it move up, deposit Helbrecht and the boys, and then kind of back off to hold my home field. And it does hold the home field really well. I think every single game, something would try to drop into my deployment zone to grab my home field, and the Crusader would just annihilate it. It felt so good rolling all of those hurricane bolters. But the problem with my Black Templar list is it is just a bunch of Space Marines, a bunch of kind of expensive Space Marines. It's Black Templar Crusaders and Black Templar Sword Brethren, and they hit like a truck in close combat. But that's kind of their only trick. They don't have any shooting. Actually, they really don't have any shooting. A little bit of pistol shots, but that's about it. And then I actually modified my list a little bit based on some of your guys' suggestions in a previous video, so that I could have a little bit more things to run around the board and grab me secondaries and do actions. And they helped me get those secondaries and grab actions, but usually towards the middle and like later half of the game, I wouldn't have enough units to actually be scoring me a ton of points. And the other big problem is Space Marines. I have not been going up against a lot of Space Marine lists, and I think I know why. The Space Marines are a little bit bad. The RT was a 16-player tournament, and nobody else brought Space Marines. A lot of Guard, a little bit of Chaos. There's Leagues of Votann, who I really wish I got to play against, but I didn't get paired with that person. But nobody was playing Space Marines, and Space Marines. They are the poster child for 40k, and in the meta watch, they're always considered like pretty darn good. I looked at all the Black Templar winning tournament lists like from the entire year, and kind of ignoring the Ironstorm Spearhead ones because the Ironstorm isn't as hot right now because Games Workshop keeps nerfing it because Games Workshop's like, there's more to Space Marines than just the tank spam detachment, you know, and then everyone else is like, I don't believe you. And there was that list that won in France that was 100 Primaris Crusaders, which would be a really fun list to run, but I don't have 100 Crusaders. And it's a little bit lame. So the problem with Space Marines is they're in the middle. They're not like anti-infantry can usually kill anti-infantry and punch up a little bit. And then anti-tank can one-shot, you know, heavy armor, but can also punch down pretty good. Space Marines are right in that sweet spot where a lot of decent guns can just wipe Space Marines. You don't want like a Land Raider or a Lehman Russ Demolisher to shoot at like guardsmen, but you do want it to shoot at Space Marines because it is just going to wipe them. Like flat damage 2, or like D6 damage, or like a guard army, Sean's guard army. Almost every single gun in the army either does flat damage 3 or D6 damage. That is really good at just wiping Space Marines. And like I also played into Eldar, and so a lot of Eldar guns are like flat damage 2 or can spike up and like AP -4 damage D6, like can absolutely wipe Space Marines. So almost every good gun in the game can kill Space Marines unbelievably easily. And in a tournament setting, you don't take anything that can't kill easily. And that's kind of my problem with competitive play 40k. I think driving home from the tournament with the new dice in my pocket, which was feeling pretty nice, but overall losing and not having much hope of playing better or playing like, I was thinking about like, do I want to change my list? Do I want to change armies? Do I want to just make a list that is going to be better? And it made me think about the rock, paper, scissorsiness of 40k, at least of competitive 40k. Because I was thinking about it, I had so much fun in the pickup practice games leading up to the tournament. Like, why were those so much fun? But then the 2 hour and 45-minute games that I had at the tournament, those weren't as much fun to play. Like, what gives? And it's just it's the nature of competitive play. When I was playing my friendly practice games, we finished our games relatively quick, probably in about 3 hours. But there was also a little bit of chit chat, a little bit of banter, a little bit of, do you play Space Marine 2? And it's like, oh yeah, I played Space Marine 2. Did you see the part with the Rogel Doran? And it's just having so much fun, just getting to hang out with some of the nerdiest people you will ever meet. But at the tournament, it is head down, rolling dice, nothing but math and movements. It is like hyper-focused, taking the best things you possibly can in your detachment, in your list. The actual game itself of 40k is not as much fun as the things surrounding it, the camaraderie of playing a war game. In my last practice game before the tournament, I was playing somebody who was not super experienced with 40k, and so their army kind of reflected that. Their army was the cool stuff. It was a Sisters of Battle army, a lot of on-foot battle sisters, a beautiful Immolator tank, Saint Celestine, and their army couldn't do anything against my army because my army was kind of a sweaty Black Templar list. If I get into close combat, the game is kind of over because I am just going to annihilate anything that they come across. But at the end of the game, you know, I won. Actually, I won 2 of my practice games because I won against that Sisters player. But after the game was over and we were just chit-chatting about like what other armies we collect, what else we've got going on, I promised him that we would play another game and I wouldn't bring such a sweaty list and we'll have a great time. I'll dust off the Assault Centurions, whatever the sniper dudes are called for Space Marines, and we're gonna have so much fun because like we'll be matched. Like instead of just trying to smash the rock, papers, and scissors together and just eke out a victory with 3 of the best things in the game and then 3 of the second best thing in the game and then 3 of the third best thing in the game, we can just play 40k and it'll be lovely. I think competitive play is a little bit of a bummer because of the list building for 40k. Now that you can take whatever you want, only 3 of whatever you want, but 3 of whatever you want is usually plenty. It doesn't lead to a lot of really interesting, it does lead to some interesting armies, but it doesn't lead to a lot of really interesting play. Like, in most of my friendly games of 40k, you know, you set up your armies, and then you kind of smash in the middle. But in competitive play, kind of the move is turn 1, you hide absolutely everything behind a building. Because is your army designed to go first or is it designed to go second? If it's designed to go first, then maybe you push out or you have a lot of infiltrator units in the mid board. But if it's designed to go second, then you hide every single thing behind buildings so that your opponent doesn't have any targets. Because anything sticking out, even just a tiny little hair, is gonna get wiped. Like my Black Templar list, I hide it all behind cover. And then I dare my opponent to come out so that I can do a 1-turn charge into their army. It's the only way it works. My Space Marines will get absolutely obliterated by anything, or at least anything good. And that's not fun. Like that's not, or at least it's not interesting. It's really fun when I get to charge in and start chain sorting stuff in the Emperor's name. But the way to get there, this weird hidey dance, don't let my opponent see me until I get to automatically do the thing I want to do. It's very gamey. Like I can see why competitive play is so interesting because I've been getting into it too. I've been list building and math hammering and playing so many games of 40K and getting a little bit better and getting a little bit better and learning every opportunity, every stratagem, everything I can spend my command points on, every little trick I can do. But I don't see myself getting, like, just really getting into it and being like, these are the things, this is the army that is exactly optimized, because it's not gonna be my army, it's gonna be the maths army. Like one thing that is super silly, Games Workshop wants to lets infantry move through ruined walls, just to make the game a little quicker so that infantry get to do more things than like vehicles get to. But if you position your guys a half inch away from the ruined wall, then all of a sudden, if another person with infantry want to move into your guys, it's impossible because they have to be able to set up a model to stand. And so since they can't set up in the wall, they have to set up more than an inch away from your models, which means they're not in engagement range, which means that they can't move there. So in theory, Games Workshop wants to let infantry go through buildings, but with good positioning, you can once again make it impossible. It's rules as intended versus rules as written. If I was in a close combat in one of my games, and usually in close combat, I feel like in a normal game of 40K, when two people are in close combat, you just assume they're in close combat until one of them wins or one of them moves away from the combat. But it's not exactly how it works because you're supposed to do a consolidation move to stay in engagement range. I was in combat with things that were on 40mm bases, and 40mm bases are more than 1 inch big. And so at the end of my combat, I forgot to pile in because the combat didn't finish. Neither of us won the combat and wiped each other out. And so I just forgot to consolidate back into 1 inch, which meant that at the start of his turn, his models were no longer within engagement range of my models, which meant that they were just leave. They were done. They were not in the combat because I forgot to do a thing that it's part of, it's the thing. They're in close combat. We're still slugging it out. But it slipped my mind, and you can't make mistakes in competitive play. Oh, on the day I made one egregious error, and that was forgetting the rule for Sean's tank commander. Oh, the tank commander. A tank commander is a Leman Russ demolisher that hits on 3s, which can also be hitting on 2s with the right abilities. And if it dies to shooting, it gets to shoot as if it's its shooting phase with full wounds remaining, which means that it gets to shoot with the Demolisher cannon, the Heavy Stubber, the 2 multi-melta sponsons, and the Las cannon. But I had it alive on 1 wound remaining, or on 2 wounds remaining, and so hey look, he's on 2 wounds, I'm just gonna take him out, I'm gonna finish off a Leman Russ. And so I shot at it, and then I killed it, and then Sean's like, tank commander. And then the game was over, because the tank commander then got to shoot, and it wiped out a Sword Brethren squad and Helbrecht and the better part of a Land Raider. It's just, there's a million tiny little things like that. And just the mathematics of competitive play, I can see why it's interesting. And the competitive players I met, some really, really good players and really, really cool guys, I can see why they get the itch, what the draw is, why it's so exciting to mathematically put all of this together. But for me, there's a little bit of that, but then there's a lot of, I like Space Marines, I like chain swords, I like running around a board and planting flags. And the two can't really mix. You can't have a more friendly list go up against a competitive play. It's not really like in like any other hobby. Like if you're really good, if you like violin, if you give a beginner a Stradivarius and a pro like a plastic toy, the pro is going to be able to make that plastic toy sound really, really cool. And the beginner is not going to be able to do much with the Stradivarius. But with 40K, if you give a pro a bad list, it's going to lose. Like the list building, just the math of these armies going up against one another, you do have to bring out the big guns. You do have to bring... I was driving home with Sean, and Sean also didn't do super hot at the tournament, although he did better than me, which is really annoying, but his list is better. His list is just better. It's almost 100 points of 2-up save, strength 11 and 12. That is just a stat check army. And on the drive home, he was like, you know what? I'll drop this and this, and I'll bring 2 more Lehman Russes. So it'll be 5 Lehman Russes and 2 Rogel Dorns. And as soon as he said that, I'm like, I'm never gonna play that list. I just won't play it. It's not gonna be fun. That list sounds like absolutely no fun. And that's when I kind of decided, I don't think competitive play is for me. But that does not mean that Warhammer is not for me, because I have been enjoying the spit out of heading down to my local game store in the evenings and playing games. It's been the most fun I've had in like miniature wargaming forever. And so I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm just not gonna play tournaments. I had a plan coming home from the tournament because I have a GT, the Dragonfall convention, coming up in October. And so immediately after the GT, because my stuff wasn't fully painted, and so I lost out on 10 points a game for not having a fully painted army, I was gonna come home and then furiously start painting and getting that specific army list ready for the GT. As soon as I didn't have to do that, I started working on other stuff. I started working on finishing my Ogre Maw Tribe Spearhead, which Spearhead I've been really, really enjoying. But I've been like thinking about this list over and over and over, and like every single guy and every single weapon loadout and every single option. But there's other 40K stuff that I want to work on. And so now I'm gonna do some of that and keep playing on the weekends. My dream was to get good at 40K competitive play, but I kind of got good at 40K competitive play. And I learned that competitive play is not for me. It's its own beast. It comes with its own unique challenges. And I don't really want to do that. But playing 40K is for me. And come this October, even though I'm not participating in the Dragonfall GT, I'm still going to Dragonfall. And there is a casual 40K event happening there. I think I'll check that out. Thanks for watching.